Hey guys, who's a fan of the house of Houbigant? Houbigant is a classic house, and I think one of their oldest fragrances is called the Fougère Royale, which I do have a bottle of here that we're going to talk about. This was originally launched in the late 1800s, but it was reformulated in 2010 and relaunched then. And then also they have another older fragrance called Quelques Fleurs, the original, which was launched in the early 1900s. But it's a classic house that does have some modern fragrances, and I'm going to talk to you about the house today. It's a deep dive video with not as many fragrances as other videos that I've done. And I'm doing some of these videos in advance so I can air them while I'm gone to Europe, because I like to air content, repeatedly. And I want to make sure I don't leave you guys blank when I'm gone and no content airing. But if you're a fan of the house, let me know what your favorite fragrances are from the house. Add a comment below. I think I have 21 total fragrances here from the house I'm going to talk to you about. But I also plan on doing a video on their sister house of Paris Monte Carlo, which is more of a modern house. But this house is historic. It has a lot of classic fragrances and so forth. And we're going to get started with something that's not classic. It's one of their more recent launches. This is Ambre Rubis. I think that's how you pronounce that. This came out in a trio of fragrances, but I remember doing an anticipation video on the collection. There was an oud as well, and I don't know what's happened to the oud, but this is one of three. This is the amber. They also have a tobacco and they have a patchouli. And I'll be talking about the three of those fragrances here. This amber, honestly, does have a major masculine quality about it. I have to be honest. To me, it's not an amber that's similar to something like Grand Soir or Ombre Presso or things like that. This, to me, has a classic masculine men's fragrance DNA. At least to me, it smells like fragrances from the 80s with a heavy dosage of amber. It's quite spicy and it's very woody, but there's a lot of amber for sure. But it's giving me the vibes of fragrances from brands like Jacques Bogart, maybe YSL's Kouros. These kind of fragrances come up with this fragrance. I don't know why, but it's quite masculine and also old school. It's called Ambre Rubis. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm sorry if I'm screwing that up with the pronunciation, but I hope you can see that as well. But let me know what your thoughts are on this fragrance. Do you get that, what I'm getting? Does it remind you of some classic men's offerings? I don't know, it could be my nose, but I'm so familiar with a lot of classic men's fragrances. And they do have some classic fragrances here. We'll get to Duc de Vervins, this one right here. This is the Eau de Toilette version, not the Eau de Parfum. Which, actually, the Eau de Parfum, I think, is not an Eau de Parfum. It's an Extreme. So it's a classic fragrance. And as I said, this brand has some classics. But this is a very new launch. It's from within the last 3 years, Ambre Rubis. And to me, it acts old school, which is kind of a breath of fresh air. I like old school fragrances, but I was surprised that it's acting that way to me. Do let me know your thoughts. Add a comment below. Let's go to another amber, which came out last year. This is Ambre Rubis. This one's in a beautiful red bottle. So again, this collection, I think, also had 4 fragrances. I previewed them. I could be wrong with this one. I think there was 4. And then also the previous collection also had 4. But where's the oud in the previous collection? And I can't remember the fragrance, the 4th fragrance in this collection. I have 3 I'm going to talk to you about. This is a very cherry. There's that rhyming duo of words. It's very cherry. I mean, I think if you're a fan of cherry fragrances, there's a bit of cherry liqueur in here. It's gourmand-esque. I'm not sure if there's rose here, but the 2 other fragrances in red bottles have rose. This one's super potent with the the juicy kind of sweet tart cherry plus cherry liqueur. I'm assuming there's some almonds in here, some tonka beans as well, creating a really nice gourmand, very, very modern fragrance. Perhaps the brand has jumped on the cherry bandwagon because cherry fragrances are super popular. We got to thank Tom Ford Lost Cherry for that. I don't think I ever really knew of a very popular cherry fragrance prior to that. So that kind of set the anticipation for cherry fragrances. Like once that launched, people started launching them as well. Lost Cherry, I think people look up to it and they kind of come up with their own versions. This is actually pretty potent, this fragrance, Ambre Rubis. It's an amber in the end, but with a major juicy, sweet tart cherry and the cherry liqueur as well. But almondy, nutty, tonka-esque, spicy as well, but super powdery too. But beneath all of that, way behind all of that, there is a slight Middle Eastern kind of a twist happening there as well. It's not showing its face too much, but it's there. It's trying to come out, but the cherry does dominate. I like that. It doesn't smell like Lost Cherry. It does give me the idea of Lost Cherry, but it doesn't smell like Lost Cherry. Just because there's cherry in the notes doesn't necessarily mean it's like Lost Cherry or smells like Lost Cherry. This one doesn't to me. Let me know what your thoughts are. Does this Ambre Rubis remind you of Lost Cherry? Do add a comment below. Let's move on to Bois Mystique. Bois Mystique from the house of Houbigant. Again, let me know if you're a fan of this house. Let me know your favorite fragrances from this house. And if you are into deep dive videos, please go catch some of my other videos that I have on the channel. There's a playlist of deep dive videos, long form, and you can, watch them one after another in a playlist, which I have it linked in the info box as well. This is a really pleasant, woody, spicy fragrance. Very classy, very masculine, elegant and dressy. I think this does remind me of, what does it remind me of? Does it remind me of French Lover from the house of Frederic Malle? Does it remind me of Royal Oud from the house of Creed? I think it's kind of in that ballpark. I wouldn't say it's identical. It's in the ballpark. Maybe the inspiration is there. But I find this to be really awesome. I've actually given a bottle of this to my nephew. I've given a bottle of this to my brother. They've both really liked it, although my brother's tastes have changed. He's gone to the spicy side. And this is a very classy, masculine offering. It's got a elegance about it. It's just perfect woods, perfect spices together. And it could be a great signature scent for someone looking for something that they love the smell of, and they don't get tired of how classy this thing smells. It's very dressy for me, but it's also very dressy for work and very dressy for evening as well. If your idea of an evening is dinners and things like that, then I think this is definitely satisfactory in that way. So Houbigant does have some great classy offerings. I think this is in the part of the collection that also has Fougère Royale. So definitely masculine leaning. Really great work, I think. This one's super awesome. I really love it. I wouldn't say it's like the most original, most amazing, but as a smell, they've created something really wearable and really, really classy. But if you're looking for something that's supposedly the most amazing fragrance, I wouldn't call it that, but if you want a great smelling fragrance that you can wear over and over again, I would call it that. I guess that what I'm trying to say is it a masterpiece? I'm not sure if it's a masterpiece. And not all fragrances have to be a masterpiece. They have to smell good, and I like the way that smells. Let's go on to the next fragrance called Cologne Intense. You know what? Honestly, I'm not sure if this fragrance is still selling, but since this is a brand profile, I'm including it. But obviously, as you know, I don't own everything from Houbigant. This is a very citrusy and green fragrance. I feel like there are these dusty green notes, and it's got a bit of astringency. I almost feel like there's mate or some kind of a tea-like dusty note in here. It's very, very tart, astringent, very citrusy, and overdosed with a spicy greenness. And of course, I get like tea, as I said. But more like mate, because it's acting a bit grassy in there. Leaning masculine. But to me, it also, it's almost like paying homage or a tribute to some classic men's fragrances, like perhaps Eau Sauvage or Chanel Pour Monsieur. More like Chanel Pour Monsieur or YSL Pour Monsieur than Eau Sauvage. Although I think Eau Sauvage has been reformulated and modernized, whereas those I think have been kept smelling the same. But obviously they get naturally reformulated every time they do a production of it. But this is actually kind of in that ballpark, I think. So if you like those kind of fragrances, I think to check that out. It's a Cologne Intense from Houbigant. Let me know if you're a fan of that one or any of the fragrances I've spoken about so far. Then we're going to the fragrance Duc de Vervins. This is Eau de Toilette. Right there, you should have all the info for you. So, I believe this had launched in the 80s. To me, it's another one of those fragrances that does have a reminder of Drakkar Noir. It's a Fougere, 80s style herbal Fougere, spicy, green, lavender forward, but also other herbs thrown in as well. I wish I had the extreme, or if the extreme is eau de parfum. This is a bit thin. There's also a sharp metallic quality about it, but to me, it's kind of like an offspring of Drakkar Noir, inspired by Drakkar Noir. To me, I've worn so much Drakkar Noir. It was one of my favorite fragrances in the 80s. I went through 4 bottles. I started wearing, I think, as soon as I went to junior high. And I wore multiple bottles of it. And so it totally reminds me of Drakkar Noir. But you know, this has its own unique characteristics. So it's not identical. But when you smell it, when you put your nose to it, it'll remind you of that. So if you like those kind of fragrances, those old school 80s powerhouse, you know, Fougere's barbershop fragrances, definitely I think this is one you should try. Duc de Vervins from the house of Houbigant. So I'm going to put the video on pause here, go grab a fragrance that I completely forgot. So I'm going to get to that fragrance in a bit. I'm going to get to it in alphabetical order. But the next fragrance is called Essence Rare. I believe it's a Jean-Claude Ellena creation. I'm not 100% sure. It's his eau de parfum. Does anybody remember if this is Jean-Claude Ellena? Do let me know. It's a floral. I feel like it's a combo of jasmine, so it's a bit indolic, but there's also rose here. You can totally smell it. The jasmine is so in your face, though. It's almost like a nice marriage of jasmine and rose together. You're smelling equal amounts. Neither one is, you know, winning the other. But maybe that jasmine is winning out. Like, if you've ever smelled jasmine on the bush, this smells so realistic in that way. And I'm like 99.9% correct about this being a Jean-Claude Ellena fragrance. It smells like something he would do, but not for Hermès. You know, because Hermès is a huge corporation. They have all their limitations and things, and I don't know, they do their marketing research and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if they do that, but maybe they do because they're such a big corporation. This is a very small house, so I think he probably gets, creative, whatever. He can do whatever he wants with his fragrances, and it's so realistic. There is something also classic about this, but done in a very modern way. It's gorgeous if you like jasmine and rose, Essence Rare from the house of Houbigant. So as you noticed, I've got feminine fragrances here and also masculine fragrances, but this is definitely a house overview of the house of Houbigant. And also, one thing I should say, their sister house, Paris Monte Carlo versus Houbigant. Paris Monte Carlo is a lot newer. Houbigant is a lot older, as I said. And Houbigant tends to do more feminine fragrances versus masculine fragrances, so they're separated for sexes. Whereas I think recently they've started doing more unisex offerings, and I believe the red bottles are unisex. But they separate the fragrances. At least they did a long time ago, and I think now they're getting into the modern days and making fragrances unisex. But if you go to the house of Paris Monte Carlo, they're all unisex offerings, if that makes sense to you guys. But let's move on to a fragrance called Figuier Noir. So I discovered this fragrance when I was on a trip to Paris, I think in 22, when we started traveling again after the pandemic. This was actually a new launch, and I'm a big fan of figs. This is like taking the fig leaves and bringing out its most bitter, peppery portions of it. It's so spicy to me that I find it almost walnutty. I don't know if you guys know the note of walnuts, but walnuts that have not dried yet, the skin, the green skin, there's this peppery kind of quality about it. To me, it's nutty here. And I don't get nutty notes usually from figs, but I grew up with a lot of walnuts, and I've picked walnuts. You actually can make raw walnuts into jam and things like that. So I've smelled that smell. This acts a bit walnutty to me. It's not your typical like fig fragrance. Sure, there's the smell of figs. Eventually also it starts smelling a lot more like figs, but when it's first sprayed, there's that whole walnutty experience. But the walnuts that are just on the tree in between drying with their, green leaves falling, green skin falling off, and then going into the shell format, and it gives me that kind of a vibe. It's a very, very dark fig fragrance. Very. Let me know your thoughts on Figuier Noir. What do you guys think? Do you get that? Do you get what I get? Again, noses are so different. We all get different things, and everybody has their own interpretation of a smell. And it's a very subjective, hobby, this fragrance thing. Some people like certain fragrances, others don't, and vice versa. So this is not one of my all-time favorite fig fragrances, and I love fig fragrances. I never thought of the walnut skin as a fragrance. And as I said, this is the first time I'm getting it, and I'm getting quite a bit of it when you first spray Figuier Noir from Houbigant. Do let me know what your thoughts are. Add a comment below. Next, going to Fougère Royale. So I became a big fan of this early on in the 2010s. So the fragrance was, there's a lot about Fougère Royale. It's got a lot of history. It was launched in the late 1800s, created by Paul Parquet, I believe, perfumer Paul Parquet. They were trying to replicate the smell of a fern. Fougère means fern in French. And even though the fern has a slight light aroma, what they were trying to do was create the smell if it had this really fragrant aroma. And I think that's when Fougères were born. The barbershop fragrances were born in the late 1800s. The fragrance got reformulated and rebottled in 2010 like this. So it got modernized, basically, because the old formula was probably not something that people would wear these days. And I think Rodrigo Flores Roux did a great job for this. This is a really quality offering, really nice masculine fragrance, utilizing lavender. There's geranium here. there are green notes in here. There's bergamot for the freshness. There's coumarin or tonka in the base. But along the way, there's spices, citruses, and other notes, woods and things like that to create this wonderful, modernized, but also a classic style of fragrance to bring it into the 20th century kind of a thing, or 21st century, I should say. But really awesome fragrance, really. It's one of my favorite fragrances, although I have gotten a bit tired of it because there's a lot of Fougeres on the market, a lot. There was Bracken Man at one time that came out around 2017 by Amouage, which I had worn so much of this, I kind of started wearing that because that also had a really prominent, warm, spicy effect happening. I think Bracken got discontinued, if I'm not mistaken. They might have brought it back, though. I'm a little confused. It might have been discontinued in the States and it's still selling elsewhere. But something with that fragrance. I like both. I'm reminded of both when I smell one or the other. So I'm reminded of Bracken when I smell Fougère Royale. I'm reminded of Fougère Royale when I smell Bracken Man. But I think this is definitely one of the best, hands down, one of the best Fougère fragrances. That's why it's called Fougère Royale. It's the Royal Fougère. But really great. If you like green fragrances, aromatic fragrances, spicy herbal fragrances, woody fragrances, classy masculine fragrances, definitely try Fougère Royale. Now, I'm speaking about the EDP. I do have the Parfum. And I've mentioned in a video, I spoke about this in a video called Your Fragrance Questions Answered. And I did mention in that video that if you have the original, you really do not need the Parfum unless you have a lot of extra money, then get it, because it is 3 times the price of the OG. And again, I don't know what's going on with prices as of the shooting of this video because prices are all changing. So I don't know what the prices are. But originally, the Eau de Parfum Fougère Royale was or is $200 approximately. And the Parfum of Fougère Royale, which I have here, was around $600. But I'm not 100% sure if those prices are staying. So Fougère Royale Eau de Parfum. This is the Parfum, as you can see in the bottom there. I haven't worn much of this. Sure, you'll notice a denseness. It's thicker and everything is a lot more pronounced, I guess. A lot more. There, you can experience them a bit fuller, you know? Where I think EDP is lighter concentration, Parfum is a higher concentration. So you'll notice a difference. There's not a lot of change in the smell. They've just kept the smell very identical, but it's just more intensified. That's why I feel like if you have the original, it's Eau de Parfum, it's got good longevity. I wouldn't say it's beast mode or anything, but you do get a more luxurious version of it here in the Parfum, but I think you're totally fine just staying with the Eau de Parfum if you don't have the money for the Parfum. The Parfum, I think, is for folks that have extra money, that really are obsessed with Fougère Royale, and they've got some money to spend and they want a more luxurious take on the original fragrance they're obsessed with. You know, they got to have everything about it. But I think if you don't need it, then don't get it, kind of a thing. So stick with the Eau de Parfum. I think it will do fine. Just trying to help you save money. But again, as I said, if you have the money, get it. It's a great fragrance. It's one of the best men's fragrances out there. Smells great. Lots of lavender, lots of geranium, lots of green notes. And of course, the barbershop effects. So that's Fougère Royale in the Parfum concentration. And a very historic fragrance for sure. I've got a lot of videos on the channel on Fougère Royale and also on Fougère fragrances. So if you want to learn more, go catch those videos and learn a lot about Fougères. I gave you just a quick edited version of the original Fougère Royale. But let's move on to a fragrance called Iris de Champ. This is from Houbigant. So this is a feminine targeted release, but if you're a fan of iris, I don't think it should disappoint. It's quite powdery. It's a very luxurious iris fragrance. What I like about this, it gives me a little bit of a vegetal makeup effect. It's quite powdery, and it smells of powder, like makeup powder. But underneath it all, there is a creamy, buttery effect, and I think it's the iris, the orris butter that's in here. So there's some fragrances that smell like makeup, right? Because like Dior Homme Parfum, the original, or Dior Homme Intense. This gives me that kind of a vibe, but not as sweet, because that is a sweeter fragrance. This is not so sweet. And iris to me comes off vegetal, always does. I think they add some sweetness to it to sweeten it up, but it is grown under the ground. It's the root of the iris flower. So it's like potatoes. So not quite, but I'm giving you kind of painting a picture for you guys because it grows underground. It's a root. So it's rooty, it's vegetal, and it's powdery. So that's what I'm getting here in a raw form. So that is Iris de Champ from the house of Houbigant. And then we've got two fragrances that are Eau de Parfum and Parfum edition. And I recently talked about this in the Neroli Orange Blossom deep dive video. This is Orangère en Fleur from the house of Houbigant. I've had this bottle for a while. I think this bottle is kind of turning, sadly. But I love this one. I've worn quite a bit of it. And, oh no, actually, kind of. To me, is the word fluffy? It's kind of more velvety. There's a smoothness about it. In the end, it's orange blossom for sure, orangère. So en fleur, I think, but yeah, it's orange blossom. There's a sweetness about it. There's a velvety sweetness, smoothness about it. And of course, it's quite powdery and fresh and citrusy. But to me, it's more the flower. It's not indolic whatsoever. It's sweet. It has been sweetened up, but they've stripped away the greenness of the flower. I mean, this does have, usually the orange blossom does have some greenness, and it's stripped away from that. It's just, they've just given us the sweetness of the flower. It doesn't smell like Love Don't Be Shy. It doesn't have that vanillic sweetness, the marshmallowy touches that they, mix orange blossom or neroli with to get that kind of a candied orange blossom thing. It doesn't have that. It's just mostly the flower by itself, sweetened up, but doesn't go candy. As I said, it's just sweet, and basically the sweetness of the flower. So that's the Eau de Parfum. And I think when I shot my video with in the neroli video, the deep dive, when I did this, the orange blossom neroli video, when I featured this, I think my bottle hadn't been sprayed for a long time. So sometimes up top, the juice that's stuck up there is not as good as what's inside the actual bottle. So maybe that's what it was, because it's smelling much better now than it did the last time. Although I did get something weird up top, it went away so fast. Really well, a really great fragrance. I've had this in my collection for over 10 years. So that's Orangère en Fleur. And then I have the Parfum edition as well. And the Parfum edition is, the bottle is a bit different. So I don't think the Parfum edition is being sold now. I checked their website. I don't think it is, but I'm not 100% sure. Again, I don't think you need the Parfum. A lot of the Parfum editions of this house are almost identical to their counterpart, to their Eau de Parfum, but they're also 3 times the price. Again, I don't know what the pricing is going to be once this video is shot and with all the price changes out there. Currently, these were $600 for the Parfum versus the Eau de Parfum around $200. So the prices might change. In fact, I feel like the Parfum in this one is also a bit subdued compared to the OG. But still thicker, denser, just not as loud. One thing I forgot to mention about this fragrance or this collection, it is soapy. There's a soapiness about it because it is in the end orange blossom. And to me, orange blossom is very soapy to begin with. Mugler Cologne, orange blossom neroli is a very soapy fragrance. So in the end, you'll get that. But this is a lot sweeter, as I said. And I feel like it's the sweetness of the flower, not sugary sweet vanilla kind of a sweetness. It's a great fragrance. Again, you do not need the parfum. And I think it's no longer selling. Maybe it wasn't selling. That's no longer selling. I don't know. But I think if you like Orange Blossom, you want to try the Orange Blossom, stick to the Eau de Parfum. All right, this is only one page of fragrances. As I said, I have around 21, but I did find a fragrance which I should have talked about before I talked about the Orangère en Fleur, and I'm going to talk about this. So there is this fragrance is called Musk or Monsieur Musk. At one time, it used to be under Houbigant. I think it's under Dana now. Dana as in the distributor, Taboo by Dana. But from what I've heard, this fragrance at one time was under Houbigant. Do you guys know about this, Monsieur Musk? Sadly, this is a splash. This musk also reminds me of the musk of Acampora. You guys familiar with Acampora? Yeah, I'm sorry. This should have come before the Orangère en Fleur. Yeah. Does remind me of Acampora's famous musk. But who knows this? I haven't, the way I have the fragrances grouped in the studio by brand, and I have a designer section, and I have a bigger niche section, and I have smaller niche, I have indie, I have celebrity, you name it. That's how it's categorized. I haven't listed this with Houbigant because on my bottle, it does say Dana. If you can see at the bottom there. But from what I've heard, this used to be part of Houbigant before. But to me, this musk is so different. It's kind of that mushroomy musk that Acampora has. So different. But I like this. It's a really great musk. Just a different take on musk. If you guys know anything about this, do add a comment below. Let's get the conversation started about that, because I would love to have some more details, the history of it. How come it went to Dana? Did the brand just drop that fragrance? I don't know what happened, but this is what I've heard. Maybe I'm making up crap. I don't know, but that's what I've heard. That's why I'm mentioning it here. But let's move on to an actual Houbigant fragrance called Patchouli Sauvage. Patchouli is a favorite note of mine, if you guys haven't heard. This patchouli it's a patchouli that doesn't go into the chocolate cakey direction. But for me, it does get ambery. And I don't know why, but I get tobacco from it too. And it's not the tobacco I'm smelling because they have Tabac Nomade. I am smelling the Patchouli Sauvage. I agree with the name, Patchouli Sauvage, wild patchouli, savage patchouli. It does act like that. And again, to me, it's a bit more of a raw form of patchouli, raw and rough and rugged, but not the amber focused one like Psychedelic from Javoy has a lot of amber and resins and vanillic notes to create the chocolate cakey effect. This is definitely not going chocolate cakey, but it's a really, really great take on a patchouli, but more like outdoorsy patchouli, you know? I get a bit of tobacco-ish vibes, a bit of smokiness, and the patchouli it's really spicy as well. And it's got amber in the base, but there's a ruggedness about this one because it doesn't have that chocolate cakey quality. So there's the patchouli of Diptyque Tempo. It doesn't smell like this. That one's a bit green and grassy. There's the patchouli of Nikolai. Nothing like it. That is more aromatic and spicy with the overdose of lavender and the geranium. This is something different, but really great quality. So Patchouli Sauvage. So we're getting to the next big historic fragrance of this brand, and I've got multiple flankers here, and also have them in the Parfum concentrations as well. But the first fragrance is Quelques Fleurs, the original. It's pretty classic. It was launched in 1913, I believe. To me, it's like, it's a bit aldehydic, but very, very kind of, it has green touches, and it has lots of flowers and spices and woods mixed in together. It smells like a classic fragrance. In fact, it reminds me a little bit of Essence Rare, the flowers that are in there. But whereas Essence Rare was about the jasmine and rose and everything was built around it, here there's a lot of the jasmine and rose in there, but there's a lot of other things. I think there's green floral notes in this one as well. I believe there's hyacinth or something like that. But once again, it's mixed together, and it's a huge springy kind of, I'm thinking spring season, and the notes breakdown to me comes off a bit spring-like because of the types of flowers. But in the end, the way it's blended, it's acting really intense and heavy, and also very classic. I believe this is also modernized. I think the original was 1913. I don't know when they modernized it, but it smells like, I'm not going to use the word, but my mom likes fragrances like this, but she also likes modern fragrances. So there is a mature quality about this fragrance for sure, which I have no problem with. I like classics and I like modern fragrances, but it's quite lovely. You guys might not like it because it's so classic. The next fragrance is called Quelques Fleurs Royale. Let me see. Let me show you the bottom. So obviously this is a flanker. And I've got the Parfum. And then I also have the Quelques Fleurs Jardin Secret. And the Eau de Parfum and the Parfum. This to me, made modern in a pretty way. It's a bit young as well. Not as mature as the original Quelques Fleurs. I mean, it still smells a bit classic, but it doesn't seem like it was launched yesteryear, you know? It seems modern compared to Quelques Fleurs, which does smell like it's from a long time ago. This to me also smells a bit honeyed and also powdery. And it's very powdery. I feel like there's mimosa here or something heliotrope-like. It's got a very powdery effect that it's developing too. They smell nothing alike. Quelques Fleurs Royale and Quelques Fleurs Original. The original are totally different. Totally different. Again, Quelques Fleurs Royale seems like it could be in a modern niche brands collection of fragrances where they kind of make a bit of a classic inspired fragrance, but in a modern way. But the original Quelques Fleurs totally smells classic. So let's try the Parfum edition of Quelques Fleurs Royale. And once again, I believe these fragrances do smell very similar. The formula hasn't changed. The notes breakdown is the same. So it's also kind of interesting. I didn't get much fruits with the EDP. I'm getting a very fruity effect in this one. So honeyed and fruity. I feel like juicy peaches or ripe juicy peaches and or apricots are what I'm smelling here. but there's a very honeyed effect. The honeyed effect can come from mimosa as well. I'm not 100% sure if Quelques Fleurs Royale has mimosa, but since I got that powdery effect, I thought either mimosa or the heliotrope. But this EDP, this parfum to me smells so good. So good. In comparison to the EDP. The EDP and this one do have differences. But again, the price differences are so different. I love the parfum. The parfum is so good. So I don't know if you guys are fans of this line, Quelques Fleurs Royale or Quelques Fleurs the original, and then the Quelques Fleurs Royale Parfum. But let's move on to Quelques Fleurs Jardin Secret. This fragrance reminds me of the discontinued Byredo fragrance, Green. You guys familiar with Green by Byredo? There is a greenness about it. There's a spiciness about it. And green florals and white florals all mixed in together. To me, it's very fresh. Very fresh, but spicy. There's a zesty spice about it. I'm not sure if it's ginger, but it's got a kick. It's got a bite. And it smells great. I'm almost thinking there might be some cardamom-like spice in here as well, but kind of light, not super strong. But it really does remind me of the Byredo fragrance Green, which is long discontinued. I'm not sure why that got discontinued. Maybe it just wasn't selling. Who's a fan or who remembers Byredo Green? Do let me know. Add a comment below. But that's Quelques Fleurs Jardin Secret. I actually really like this. And I don't think it screams too feminine either. The other ones did. This one is not as much because it's got all those greenness. I mean, even though I'm getting flowers, but there's so much greenness in here that it's not acting as feminine as the previous two editions. Now let's try the Parfum edition of that. Quelques Fleurs Jardin Secret. Yeah. It's interesting also, going from the Eau de Parfum to the Parfum, there is definitely noticeable density changes, but also I'm getting more succulent. It's a bit more subdued. It's not projecting as much, and I think Eau de Parfums do project much more than Extrait de Parfums. Not 100% all the time, but most of the time. Here, this is acting a bit more subdued, and it's actually taken a bit longer to develop into an actual smell of what I remember smelling in the Eau de Parfum. But in the end, it's smelling very identical, and I'm loving this. This is one of my favorite versions of Quelques Fleurs. I'm not a big fan of the original. I did like the Parfum of the Quelques Fleurs Royale, but this Quelques Fleurs Jardin Secret, EDP, and Parfum are really great fragrances. Really wonderful. Oh, I love this. It's even more. It's like it took a while for it to get going, so it's developed into something super fantastic. There is definitely a creamy undertone here, soft, but much more potent. Oh, I love that. Let me know if you're a fan of Jardin Secret, Quelques Fleurs Jardin Secret. This is it right here. I don't have a cap for this, but I really love that. All right, we've got Rose du Désert next. And judging by the name, what are you going to get? Middle Eastern style rose, right? Rose from the desert. And once again, really lovely made. I think the red bottle collection, the first one was good that I talked about. It's the Ambre Rubis. And then the Rose du Désert is also good. My favorite is Ambre Rubis. I'm not sure about the last one, which is Vanille Impériale. It's not so vanilla to me, unfortunately. But I think this definitely, Rose du Désert, is my second favorite. It's so super ambery and dry and warm. It really does act like the desert and the dustiness of the desert, the sand and all that. you've got that here for sure. Now, I'm not sure if there's any oud in here. There might be some oudiness, but it's acting more ambery to me. It's not even acting very leathery, but it does have that Middle Eastern touch about it. Very nicely done. It's also super potent. I think these are eau de parfums, not extrait de parfums. If I can see it, it's eau de parfum, yeah. So that's Rose du Désert. Then we've got Tabac Nomade. Are you familiar with Tabac Nomade? I'm a big fan of tobacco fragrances. Are you guys? What is your favorite tobacco fragrance? And now that you've watched almost the entire video, what sounds the best to you? Unfortunately, this is not my favorite tobacco fragrance, sadly. I mean, it reminds me of something I've smelled before. It's also a very sticky resinous tobacco. This is not the smoky variety of tobacco. It's not ashy. It's not smoky. It's more about the leaf. But the leaf is a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a strange, like, it's, the leaf like is aged a lot. I'm not trying to say it's moldy. There's a mustiness about it. And I think it's due to the age of the tobacco leaves in here. But there's a major dosage of spices. Plus this is acting sticky, gooey, ambery. It's super potent. It's not my favorite, but I like it. I don't hate it. Giving me a little bit of the vibe of red tobacco as well. A little bit. It's quite ambery. It's super spicy, but not smoky whatsoever. So that is Tabac Nomade. And then we're going to end with the last fragrance, Vanille Impériale. Sadly, and I'm a big fan of vanilla fragrances, this one doesn't work for me so much. It's a rosy vanilla. I think in the red bottle collection, the winner is Ambre Rubis. And you've got to be into cherry to appreciate that one. But they did a great job with that one. And this one, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just, it has a very Middle Eastern vibe. For sure. And it's basically, it doesn't smell like, it doesn't smell like Intense Cafe. Because it's kind of a combo of vanilla and rose, and it's not bad. It doesn't smell bad. It just it's not my favorite of the three fragrances. I think there will definitely be people that like this one, but for me, the winner in the red bottle collection for sure is Ambre Rubis. If you like cherry, you got to check this one out if you haven't yet. I think they did a great job with that one. And even though I find cherry to be not a serious perfume note, but people love the smell of cherries and fragrances. That's why it's so popular. That's why Tom Ford sells a lot of Lost Cherry, and that's why a lot of brands come up with their own version of Lost Cherry. But that's it. That's the end of the video here. The deep dive on Houbigant's fragrances. Excuse my voice. I'm losing my voice. But I think the standout fragrances from this house, or the historic fragrances, are Fougère Royale and Quelques Fleurs. So those are the classic fragrances. So I do have to say my favorite fragrances from the house happen to be Fougère Royale, of course. Really love Patchouli Sauvage. Really love the Jardin Secret duo, the Parfum and the Eau de Parfum. Really love the Parfum of Quelques Fleurs Royale. Can't forget Bois Mystique. It's a great fragrance. And the Orangère en Fleur is good. And that's it. I think that's a good list of fragrances to check out. Well, did I say Bois Mystique? Yeah, Bois Mystique is definitely on the list. If you're curious to learn more about this house, check them out. It's a good house. And let me know if you guys are aware of this Monsieur Musk that used to be under Houbigant, which is now under Dana. But thanks so much for watching today's video, guys. If you have any questions or comments, please do list below. Let me know your favorite fragrances from Houbigant. Let me know what sounds great to you. If you don't know this house, do add a comment. And also, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. And make sure to give a thumbs up for this video. See you guys later. Bye-bye.